According to the Muslim belief and Islamic scholarly accounts, the revelation of the Quran to the Islamic prophet Muhammad began in 610 AD. This is when we first hear of the God Allah and worshiping to him. But what many people don't know is that Allah is actually connected to Satan, Baal, as well as the coming Antichrist. And by the end of this video, I believe you'll see that Allah is not only associated with them, but actually is them. We'll start off with Allah's connection to Satan. In Islam, it is said that Allah has 99 names. Actually, when looking into it, he has over 99 different references, but the Quran actually describes that the characteristics of Allah are actually the same characteristics that Satan has. In Quran 3:54, it says, "And the unbelievers deceived, but Allah deceived as well, for Allah is the best deceiver." Revelation 12:9, written 600 years before that verse in the Quran. "And the great dragon was cast out, that serpent of old called the devil and Satan, who deceives the whole world. He was cast to the earth, and his angels were cast out with him." This other verse in the Quran tells us that Allah is great at misguiding people. Surah 14:4, "And we never met a messenger save with the language of his folk, that he might make the messenger clear for them. Then Allah sendeth whom he will astray, and guideth whom he will. He is the mighty and wise." Here's what the Bible has to say about an entity that is good at misguiding people. 2 Corinthians 11:14-15, "And no wonder, for Satan himself disguises himself as an angel of light. So it is no surprise if his servants also disguise themselves as servants of righteousness. Their end will correspond to their deeds." If Allah is out there misguiding people, then he's tempting them away from the truth. James 1:13 tells us, "Let no one say when he is tempted, I am tempted by God. For God cannot be tempted by evil, nor does he himself tempt anyone." Now we'll look at how Allah's name written in Arabic actually looks exactly like how in Greek it's told to us the number 666 is the mark of the beast, as well as the Codex Vaticanus tells us of this mark. After we look at this, we will look at the absolute proof that the worship at Kaaba in Mecca, the most holiest site for Muslims, is actually tied and was founded upon the worship of Baal and false gods, and how that's actually the exact worship that continues on to this very day.
When I first saw the Codex Vaticanus, I was literally shocked because I could read the text. It was Arabic. And as I look at it, it had these, what thought these symbols, this and this, in a very kind of circular way, you know, and then you had this symbol, all right? Now this is an Arabic word. You can film it and ask any Arab, what is that word? Bism, in the name of, and this word, you can ask any Arab what that word is. Bism Allah, in the name of Allah, was on that badge that people put in their foreheads as John documented what he saw on the godly video. God showed him. And that will be the symbol of Islam, which is the two swords. That is a symbol in Saudi Arabia. It's a symbol of Islam from the eons of time.
When he references the godly video, he's talking about the vision that John had when he wrote the book of Revelation. Again, here you can see the Codex Vaticanus, how that is the exact similar looking name to the name of Allah, as well as when we look at the Greek number for 666, it's practically identical. And if that wasn't enough to connect Allah to the Antichrist, we can do it even more so. 1 John 2, verse 22, "Who is a liar but he that denieth that Jesus is the Christ? He is Antichrist, that denieth the Father and the Son." The Bible tells us anyone who denies Jesus as the Son of God is an Antichrist. What does the Quran have to say about that? There's over 13 verses in the Quran that say that God does not have a son. Here's just two of them. "And say, Praise to Allah, who has not taken a son and has had no partner in his dominion and has no need of a protector out of weakness, and glorify him with great glorification. And to warn those who say, Allah has taken no son." This brings us back now in history to the beginning of Kaaba and Mecca, the most holiest site for Muslims, and we can actually see how there's a connection here to Baal worship. And not only that, but the worship of Baal is the worship of Satan. Jesus tells us this himself. We'll connect this all right now. Kaaba is the holiest and most sacred site to Muslims in the city of Mecca, which is of the utmost importance to Islam. A pilgrimage to this site is a duty that must be done by Muslims at least once in their lifetime. This is what Muslims believe as to how Kaaba began.
You pointed out that Allah in the Quran, am I correct in this, is actually a deceiver, that he has the attributes of Satan himself?
Well, the 99 names of Allah are very well known in Islam.
Yeah.
Some of these names, if you look at them, one of the names of Allah in the Quran is Al-Mutakabbir, which means the most proud one. When I read the Bible as a Muslim, and I saw the most proud one in the Bible was Satan, or Al-Mumit, the one who causes death.
Well, exactly. Well, you know, I'm just writing a book. I've just finished one on humility, and the truth is the root sin of the world is pride. Yeah, I will exalt myself upon the throne of God.
And that's the problems where Muslims cannot see the truth from the Bible.
But the one that they say is Allah is the most proud one?
The most. When we say Al-Mutakabbir, it's the L, like the Elohim. Al is the most proud one. So the most proud one is Allah.
But that's really Satan.
Exactly. And it's worse than that, because he's the one who causes death, Al-Mumit, Al-Makir, the great deceiver. This is the names of Allah in the Quran.
What did you just say?
So
they really believe that the great deceiver?
Yes.
I mean, in America, we don't hear this.
Yes, in the Quran it says وَيَمْكُرُونَ وَيَمْكُرُ اللَّهُ وَاللَّهُ خَيْرُ الْمَاكِرِينَ. Allah is the greatest of all deceivers. So it is okay that's why Islam has deception in war. That's why Islam offers hudna, or a peace treaty, to non-Muslims up to 10 years, but they must break the peace treaty somewhere.
Well, the hudna was Oslo. In other words,
you Americans called it the Oslo Peace Accord. We called it the Oslo Hudna Accord. So a hudna is a treaty. It's actually not a peace treaty. It's a ceasefire. In Islam, we're allowed to have a ceasefire for two reasons. First, reason number one, to gain concessions. Reason number two, to deceive the enemy and destroy them in the end.
What about the Bush administration, Condoleezza Rice? Bush comes out and says this is a religion of peace. Condoleezza Rice has a celebration at the end of Ramadan and honors these people on account of this great religion. Are they deceived?
It's a deception. I mean, CAIR, Council of American Islamic Relations, they say we condemn terrorism. We condemn terrorism. Well, what we need to do as Americans is to say, wait a minute, condemning a terrorism is not a verb, it's an act. How are you condemning terrorism by act?
Doesn't sound like God to me. It sounds like Satan again. And very famous one, number 4, Al-Makir, the deceiver, right? The deceiver. Brother, you are an Arabic speaker. I'm an Arabic speaker. When you use the word makr in any context, is it a negative thing? Is it an evil thing to use?
Of course. I mean, I dare anyone to go to an Arabic-speaking president or a boss, just a boss in general at your workplace, and say, hey, you look like al-makir, a deceiver to me. And let me know if that boss took it lightly and took it positively. If they don't take it that way, how can you call Allah this way?
Yeah, and Allah in chapter 3, Surah Ali Imran, ayah 54, he used this name. Look, وَمَكَرُوا وَمَكَرَ اللَّهُ وَاللَّهُ خَيْرُ الْمَاكِرِينَ. And Muslims will do all kind of mental gymnastics and duct taping using false translation. No, the meaning is not planned, as you see on the screen. This is a false translation. Any Arabic speaker, and the brother already explained it, Allah is clearly the best of deceivers. So he is the deceiver, as we showed you in the last slide.
Just look at the list, my Muslim friend, and tell us, do these names look like beautiful names to you? And would you like to follow a God that is bragging about himself, calling himself in such way, or at least ascribing to himself things like Al-Fattan, for instance, came from the fact that he causes fitna?
Exactly. And last ayah that I want to show you is chapter 14, Surah Ibrahim, ayah 4. It says literally here that Allah is the one who is leading people astray. فَيَضِلُّ اللَّهُ مَا يَشَاءُ وَيَهْدِي مَنْ يَشَاءُ فَيَضِلُّ اللَّهُ مَنْ يَشَاءُ وَيَهْدِي مَنْ يَشَاءُ. Meaning Allah misguides,
Right.
Allah the misguider, He misguides whoever He likes and He guides whoever He likes. So basically, in the hands of Allah, you're nothing but a puppet, and Allah is the puppeteer.
So these are all of, this is a detailed article about the Quran, the verses in Arabic, and broken down literally to, all the scriptures in the Quran that states that Allah is the great deceiver. So here are the scriptures here. The proof is in the pudding. And nowhere in the Holy Bible does it say that God or Jesus is the great deceiver. And why in the world is that in there? Not just once. You can see here, that there are many scriptures here. Not just, if there was just one, okay, or maybe even two, all right. But there's more than three, and three is a witness. And so there's a witness here that Allah is the great deceiver. And please comment below, and again, this is not an attack on Islam or the Quran. I'm just stating facts here. I'm not shooting off my mouth, attacking their religion, and I'm not attacking their religion. I'm just quoting facts here. And so also another thing too is if you're a Muslim while listening to this, show me in your Quran that Allah loves you. In the Holy Bible here, it quotes that for God so loved the world, He loved the world that He sent Jesus Christ, the Son of the living God. And I know that Allah, for us in our religion, is blasphemy to say that God doesn't have a son. And it's pretty wild that yours quotes that it doesn't have a son. And so, so answer me, if you're a Muslim, in the comments section below. Show me the scriptures that Allah or the Prophet says that He loves you, that Allah loves you. Allah is love. Allah loves you. And this is number 3. Answer me this question if you're a Muslim. Number 1, it talks about Allah being the great deceiver. Number 2, it talks about is Allah love, or does the Prophet love you, or Allah love you? Is that in the Quran? And then number 3, is it true that Isa, which is the way that you call Jesus, is Isa mentioned more in the Quran and the holy books than Allah and the prophets combined? Well, I can answer that for you. Yes, it talks more. The Quran talks more about Isa than it does about Allah and their holy prophet combined. And why is that? Why do they talk? Why does the Quran talk more about Isa? And that is why so many Muslims are coming to Jesus Christ of Nazareth, who loves them, and you know what I mean, who saves them, because we believe, and it is the truth, that the only way to heaven and to God is through Jesus Christ. And so anyway, guys, again, this is not an attack on the Quran. This is not an attack on Islam. This is stating facts. And if you're a Muslim, answer the questions. Answer the questions. What do you have to say about this? About Allah, the great deceiver? Well, look at all the verses that says Allah is the great deceiver, and the great deceiver in our holy book is the devil, is Satan, is the great deceiver. He comes to steal, kill, and destroy, and with deception. So
normal Muslims, you're not extremists, you're not radical, just normal Sunni Muslims. Please raise your hands. Everybody, mashallah, subhanallah. Okay, take down your hands again. How many of you agree that men and women should sit separate? Please raise your hands. Everyone agree. Everyone agree. Brothers and sisters. Subhanallah. So it's not just these radical sheikhs then. Allahu Akbar. Next question. How many of you agree that the punishments described in the Quran and the Sunnah, whether it is death,
What do you mean?
whether it is stoning for adultery, whatever it is, if it is from Allah and His Messenger, that is the best punishment ever possible for humankind?
Nigga, what is you talking about?
And that is what we should apply in the world. Who agrees with that? Allahu Akbar. Are you all radical extremists? SubhanAllah. So all of you are saying that you are common Muslims, you all go to the different masajid in Norway, or are you like a specific sect, like the Islam net sect or anything like that? Are you like that? No. Are you like that? Please raise your hand if you're like this extreme Islam net sect or anything like that. No one. Allahu Akbar. How many of you just go to these normal masajids in Norway, the normal Sunni mosques? Please raise your hands. Allahu Akbar.
Yo, this whole shit's capped.
So what's the politicians gonna say now? What's the media gonna say now? That we're all extremists? We're all radicals? We need to deport all of us from this country?
Yes.
SubhanAllah. Allahu Akbar.
I've been a Muslim for 16 years, and recently I have decided to finally leave Islam, because over the years I've done my best to be faithful and loyal to Islam, and I took my Islamic faith very seriously, so I can assure you that I was committed to this religion. Over the past few years, I have found that I am no longer able to defend the Quran, and especially Muhammad's morals and conduct. I tried my best to love Muhammad, and I can prove I stood up for him and defended him many times. For example, I produced videos like, "Was Muhammad merciful?" I had noticed many of the criticisms were actually valid and based on authentic early Islamic sources, and I found myself at a loss to find adequate, honest responses to them. As shocking as it may seem, both the Quran and Muhammad teach that it's permissible, halal, to capture female war captives, even if these women are married and their non-Muslim husbands are still alive. For a Muslim man to marry a woman who already has a husband. But who are these women described as being owned or possessed by your right hand? There must be some other more positive interpretation to the Quran, chapter 4, verse 24.
This is the problem with Islam. The angel Gabriel approached Mary, you'll call Miriam, and told her to name her son Yahshua. In English, that's Jesus. That basically means Gabriel told Mary to name her son God of salvation. An angel told Joseph, you shall call his name Jesus, for he will save his people from their sins. But some other angel that wasn't Gabriel, that calls himself Jibril, who people believe approached Muhammad, told Muhammad there is another way to salvation. Jesus was just a prophet, he wasn't the way. Lies? I'm not surprised, because Allah is the great deceiver. Believe in the name of Jesus Christ to be forgiven of your sins. It's the only way you can get to heaven.
Mecca is also significant because it is considered the first place on earth that God Almighty was worshipped alone. And so, it was at that very spot that Abraham and his son Ishmael built the first house of worship for God. When Abraham and Ishmael had finished building the sacred house, there was still one brick that had to be put in its place. And so, Abraham sent his son Ishmael off to find a unique stone that he could put there. But God Almighty destined that the final stone that was to be laid would not be from the material of this world, but instead a stone directly from the heart of paradise. The angel Gabriel then brought the stone down to Abraham, who proceeded to put it in its proper place. It is said that when the stone first came down, it was a pure white color. But due to the impurities of this world and the sinfulness of man, the stone slowly began to fade and eventually turned black.
This is the story that Islam teaches, but what they don't tell you is that this site was going on way before they started worshiping Allah, and what it was a house and a place of worship of false idols. Hundreds of years before Muhammad was even alive, someone by the name Amr went off to a distant land, found an idol and brought it back to Mecca. They set it up at Kaaba and they began to worship false idols there.
Amr was so impressed by all that he had seen that before leaving, he asked if he could take one of the idols back home with him. The people agreed, and so Amr took the idol and placed it along with the other goods and merchandise in his caravan. He then set out southwards, back towards the city of Mecca. When Amru arrived back home, he immediately took the idol and placed it right in front of the sacred house. He then proceeded to tell the people that this was now going to be the god that they worship. Sadly, this concept faced little, if no resistance. And as time passed, the people began to worship more and more different idols, until it is said by the end of the 6th century, there were over 360 different idols surrounding the sacred house in Mecca.
One of the main, if not the main, false idol that was worshipped at Kaaba was Hubal. Hubal was worshipped in pre-Islamic Arabia. He was a human figure and was believed to control acts of divination, such as throwing arrows towards the statue and the direction that the arrows landed answered a specific question. Some scholars reference Hubal as a lunar deity tied to a trinity of moon, father, sun, mother, and the evening star, the planet Venus, as their son. Interesting, when we look at one of the most well-known symbols of Islam, it's the crescent moon and a star. There's even a story of a father sacrificing his son at Kaaba to one of the gods. Again, this was years, hundreds of years before Muhammad, which means it's hundreds of years before Allah. Abd al-Muttalib was someone who dug a well known as the Zamzam well. The Quraysh tribe tried to stop him from doing it, but one of his sons stood guard and protected against their protests. He vowed that if he were to have 10 sons to protect him, he would sacrifice one of them to the god at Kaaba. As the story goes, he told his 9 sons that he must keep the vow. It's said that the divination arrows that he used fell upon his favorite son, Abdullah, and he went on and sacrificed his son there. Again, the divination arrows were what were used by Hubal and those who followed him. Quran sources say that he sacrificed to Allah, but it's clear as day to see here that he was sacrificing to Hubal or Baal. Jeremiah 32:35 says, "And they built the high places of Baal, which are in the valley of the son of Hinnom, to cause their sons and their daughters to pass through the fire to Moloch, which I did not command them, nor did it come into my mind that they should do this abomination to cause Judah to sin." A sacrifice to Hubal or Baal is a sacrifice to Satan. Islamic sources say he sacrificed his son to Allah, but as we can clearly see, this was a sacrifice to Hubal. Jesus proves to us that sacrificing or worshiping or following these false gods is actually doing these things unto Satan. When the Pharisees confronted Jesus for casting out demons from people, Jesus responded saying, "If Satan casts out Satan, he is divided against himself. How then will his kingdom stand? And if I cast out demons by Beelzebub, by whom do your sons cast them out?" So here Jesus shows us that Beelzebub or Baal or Hubal is actually truly Satan in disguise. So we can conclude that the worship and the following and the sacrificing to Beelzebub, to Baal or Hubal, and that these things were going on at Kaaba were actually the worship and the following of Satan. That's exactly who originally and continually are being worshipped at Kaaba at Mecca. According to Islam, Muhammad was the last and the greatest prophet who taught everything about Islam and about the Quran, but he himself even said that he doesn't know if Allah is the truth. In Quran 34 verse 24, "Say, O Muhammad, to these proselytes and pagans, who gives you provision from the heavens and the earth? Say, Allah, and verily, either we or you are rightly guided or in a plain error." So Muhammad, who's supposedly the greatest teacher and prophet of Islam, says here when debating with others about the identity of God, says there's a chance that he himself may be in great error. He's not solid on his belief on who God is, and I can tell you he was in plain error. If you want to go to the truth, look at John 14:6. Jesus said to him, "I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me." I hope you've given yourself fully unto Jesus, and you can confidently say, you are not in plain error, you know the way, the truth, and the life. Jesus is the only way to God, the only way to heaven, and that's the absolute truth.
I want to teach kids the Christian truth. If you want to reach those kids on the street, then you gotta do a rap to a hip-hop beat. So I gave my sermon an urban kick. My rhymes are fly, my beats are sick. My crew is big and it keeps getting bigger. That's 'cause Jesus Christ is my nigga. Woo! it away, Mary Sue.
Jesus Christ is my nigga. He's the son of the original G. And he was sent to earth to elucidate the way that we should be. What? Like if another MC says you're a freak, you're a lame butt rapper and your rhymes are weak. I don't get mad and I don't critique. I forgive him and turn the other cheek. I don't blaspheme and I don't brag. I don't cuss and my pants don't sag. I do exude a little Christian swag and I'm proud to be an American.
Jesus Christ is a nigga. Let his light shine through ya. Let his love pop a cap in your butt and say hallelujah.